My name is Lori Hamill, as I said earlier, and I'm going to be your moderator today. I'm really excited because we have 4 panelists with us that are going to be helping us with some of the questions that you have and some of the questions that we prepared ahead of time. Talking today about mindful awareness because of what we're going through, and especially for what we're going through as performers. So today is, this is the business. It's a mental health and resiliency during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I just want to say that today this panel is actually dedicated to Becky Pastor. Becky was a member who passed away and left an endowment which finances 1 business panel each year. And this program today is this year's Becky Pastor panel. A little bit about the SAG-AFTRA Foundation before we get started. Since March 16th of this year, the SAG-AFTRA Foundation has given $2.3 million to over 2,000 members. Amazing. Now, gifts are 100% tax deductible, and this is the only fund which gives 100% to SAG-AFTRA members. The need is great. We have 2,000 applications in process, and we're receiving 100 applications a day. We're asking members if they have enough money for a month to please wait to apply so that we can get the money to the people whose need is critical. If you can give, please do. And if you need help, please ask. Okay, so our goal today, and welcome to those who just joined us. Our goal today is to be able to discuss the unique challenges facing performers during this time and to learn strategies to be able to face these obstacles with fortitude, positivity, and a calm and healthy mindset. Don't you just love it? All the time. We should have a calm and healthy mindset, right? Well, anyway, I'm hoping that today we'll get some really great insights from our panelists here. And I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. And if you could also please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you are doing, at least one thing that you're doing during this time of quarantine. Who'd like to start?
I can start. Hi, I'm Christine Aller. I'm a coach and strategist here in Los Angeles, and I specialize in helping ambitious, big-hearted individuals renew and rebuild in the areas of creativity and career and cash flow. And I've been doing that for 20 years. And I was an actor for 10 years. I was a professional organizer for 17 years. And now I'm a coach and strategist. And one of the things that I've been doing during this particular time of upheaval is making sure I get outside, because I'm a hermit and I could live inside no problem. So the sun is becoming my friend.
Wonderful. And who would like to go next?
Next. Hi, I'm Dr. Joan Pastor, and I am very grateful to be here. I think, well, I mean, what can I say about myself? I am a licensed psychologist, and I've been working with the entertainment industry for over 30 years. The company that I have is the Entertainment Center of Beverly Hills, and worked with people in all walks of entertainment, but also especially in the SAG members. The work that I do, because I'm a clinical psychologist, is certainly everything that helps them to develop themselves internally, excuse me, to be the very best that they can be in their profession, but also to be whole in themselves. And then I'm also a business psychologist, an industrial organizational psychologist. So in that aspect, I get involved in a lot of studio projects, production companies with coaching, but also working with actors in negotiations in contracts, teaching them how that works, the business side. The thing that, for me, I've been really working on, besides also getting out and exercising, walking, is this has been a difficult time for me personally in a number of areas. And so I've really been having to practice what I preach, which is emotional containment, you know, being able to really not let some of the negativity, you know, that can take over, not let that happen, using tools that I teach, use them on myself, and also to have compassion on myself and be kind to myself, so I can be able to move out into a more positive and creative space, and then be able to look at the situation objectively and come up with better answers. So that's right.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Joan.
I'll go next, happily. Hello, everyone. So good to see you. It's incredibly inspiring to just flip through the pages and to see people's cameras on and to see you all. I imagine that we're spanning from all over the country, all over the world. My name is Amelia. I'm the CEO and founder of the Flourishing Center. We're a New York City-based organization that focuses on bringing the skills of positive psychology to individuals and organizations, in particular helping people create careers out of taking a passion for helping people into a career as a coach, as a speaker, as a consultant. And positive psychology is the science of happiness and well-being. And my other field is the field of mind-body medicine. And so I create training programs for individuals in positive psychology, in resilience, in coaching skills. And yeah, it's been a fascinating time for us all. And the reason I call it fascinating is that's one strategy that I teach and use to cope with these types of things, because it's so easy for our brain to get caught up in judging. You know, this is a terrible thing. This is the worst thing that's ever happened, which for many people, it actually may be the worst thing. I would say for most people, it's probably the hardest thing that they've had to deal with in this lifetime. And so for years of training myself out of seeing and judgment, there's my dog, I apologize about that. I sometimes even just say, how fascinating, like how fascinating in the middle of a webinar, my dog starts barking. So it's a fascinating time. But the self-care strategy I will share that I've been using the most and have been giving the most to my communities in the programming I've been offering at this time is there's a psychosensory therapy that I work with a lot called havening. And havening uses touch to create a relaxation response in the body. So it looks like you're self-petting yourself. It's actually self-soothing the body. It creates a delta brainwave frequency. So I've been doing a lot of this and a lot of this across the forehead. It does the same, or even just across the palms. It's a really simple strategy, but it does a lot to soothe the nervous system. And so there's been, I see some of you trying it, which is awesome. Actually, no, Mandy's just scratching her eye. Never mind. I got excited. I thought she was actually putting it into practice right away. There you go. Thank you, Nancy, for doing it with me. And so I've been using this a lot, and I've been teaching this to my students, to my clients, because this is, there's so much about this that evokes our stress response. The hardest part about it is the uncertainty, and uncertainty puts our body into threat mode. And for many of us, we're possibly quarantined, possibly isolated. I myself got COVID. My father passed away from it, and I was there with him when he passed, taking care of him. So then I got COVID, and I'm someone for whom touch is my love language, and I haven't been touched in 4 or 5 weeks now. So I've been using a lot of self-soothing, a lot of centering of my own body through the technique. So while my background, like Joan, is in psychology, I've been really finding that when the stress levels are so high, the use of the body is really important. So exercising, keeping my body healthy, but that's been my go-to, especially at night, to try to just say, okay, I can go to bed now. My work here is done.
Thank you so much, Amelia. And Mitra?
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mitra Manesh, and I'm really honored to be here today with you. I'm the founder of the Inner Map app, which is a new mindfulness innovative app that teaches you mindful living. It's not a meditation app, it's a mindful living app through stories, through storytelling. I have a podcast, weekly podcast called Lights On. I teach mindfulness at UCLA's Semel Institute, School of Neuroscience and Human Behavior, Mindful Awareness Research Center. And I've been doing that, basically doing mindfulness coaching and teaching and training for past 35 years, before mindfulness was a thing or coaching was a thing. And so mindfulness is part of my life and part of my personal and professional life. I originally come from Iran. I was born there. So I have practiced and experienced war, revolution, losing everything, losing loved ones, losing all my belongings, and starting over again many times. I have lived on 4 continents and have had a very rich life in general. Something that I'm doing around this time to help myself and other people professionally, we're offering our app for free for 3 months. So I invite all of you to please go to innermap.me, one word, INNERMAP.me, and click on COVID response, and you'll see a whole host of free offerings, including 3 months membership free. And also personally, I have a thing for homeless people. I live here in Los Angeles, and as my colleagues were saying, it's very hard and it's very lonely. And our homeless people are extremely lonely. Nobody has been there to talk to them or assist them or give them food. So I make a point of a few times a week to go and chat with them, offer them some hot tea and anything else that I can offer them. So that's been my practice. I'm also taking care of my 88-year-old mother. I'm in quarantine with her, so I just go out whenever it's safe to go out. That's it for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mitra. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here today. And I'm really excited to get some of your viewpoints, all of your viewpoints that you have to the questions that we have prepared. And we will open up the chat later on after we cover these questions to your individual questions. So if you're at home and you're thinking, oh, wow, I really want to find out about something, make sure that just make a note of it. Maybe as we go along in this first part of the discussion, something will be answered. And if not, we'd really love to hear from you. So just know that that will be available to you in a little bit later. As far as like what we talked about earlier that we wanted to cover, some of the mental health challenges that actors have right now are that productions have shut down. Some people were in the midst of shooting and all of a sudden the job is gone. Maybe someone was, an actor was very excited just having an opportunity come up and hadn't started shooting yet, and that is gone. So I know there's loss on many levels for people. So I'm just going to read some of these in this topic first, and then I'd love for our panelists to cover these areas. An increased financial feeling of insecurity on already a profession where we never know what's coming next. Even when you think you know, you never know. The loss of day jobs, side gigs that people had to be able to support themselves. And also just, we're people. We're people, you know, we get together with people, even to see them at auditions, and having this sense of community, which is lost to us right now, and also an inability to work remotely. I know that's a lot to cover, but let's unpack this a little bit, because these are very specific to performers. Is there one of our panelists would like to start with this?
So I just want to, when you ask those questions, one of the things that stands out for me is recognizing that this tidbit or this thought doesn't necessarily directly speak to what to do during these troubling times. But we know that the way to handle threat is to look at how do we turn it into an opportunity. And I do see that there's been a number of people, actors and performers and comedians, that are figuring out or recognizing that necessity is the birthplace of creation, and figuring out ways how to create things in the time being to continue to serve people in the way that you do in order to connect, which, you know, I think many of you probably have thought of. And it's very easy to just all of a sudden start comparing yourself even more. Now it's like, oh, well, that person got their YouTube channel up overnight and But the thing that I actually want to say is, I think that this audience is actually uniquely qualified to be able to handle what's happening right now for the reasons that you said, Lori. It was already an industry where you all know that how to work with uncertainty, how to find that trust, and if anything, I would love to see more actors creating programming and messaging for people on how to deal with uncertainty, because you're so resilient and have developed resilience muscles on how to tolerate ambiguity and to sit in the unknown and the discomfort of it, and need to find some sort of higher power or higher knowing or inner knowing that this too shall pass and I'll get back on my feet again. So I think tapping the resilience that you all have already and what you have turned to time and time again, I think can be one, just a great thing to do for yourself, but then also one of the best ways to handle stressful moments is even in what Mitra said of giving back to the community. And this can get us out of our me-centered universe to a more other-centered universe, which is really important, so that we're not just sitting there licking our wounds and just feeling bad for ourselves. We're saying, what can I do? Because the opposite of being a victor is a creator. So it's so easy to just get caught up in this isn't fair. Why is this happening? And this is really hard, which is true. But on the other side, if you say, well, what can I create? How do I create anything different? Then you're stepping out and you're getting empowered. And I really think that actors have been through more than most professions have, and that they're actually quite good at already the uncertainty, because they've built muscles that most people who have been in these comfy, cushiony, I've got tenure. Yeah, I've got a 9 to 5. I'm good. I've got health insurance. I've got a 401k. I'm good. And we're like, we've just been free flowing for a long time. So that's sort of my thought.
Great, thank you. Christine?
Yeah. So in fact, tomorrow on my website at christineoller.com/cashflow, I'll be posting a free workshop called Creating Cash When Times Are Tough.
Ooh, great.
Is exactly what I've been talking about with clients for the last couple of weeks. So a framework that might help is that you are likely experiencing this financial upheaval in 3 modes. Mode 1 is the spin cycle, where you're just almost paralyzed with the anxiety and you have your hand choking your throat and your hope and your creativity is here, and you can't really build or function when your hand is to your own throat. Mode 2 is the short game, where it's just how to pay the bills, how to pay the rent, how to get your head above water so that you can use, and Amelia, that was really great advice. And in mode 2 is where you're able to put some of these practices into place and calm your nervous system down so that you can shift into mode 3, which is playing the long game. And that's what I'd really want to say to folks today. You're artists and you're in this for the long haul. And while the next 2 or 3 years are going to be unpredictable, 5 years out, 10 years out from now, if you start to think from the big picture perspective and look at things in your career from the big picture perspective, what that immediately does is give you space. And right now, we don't know when the gears of the industry are going to come back into place. People think a month, some people think 2 years. Who knows? We don't know. But there's a tendency to think, oh God, I've got to use this time and write my magnum opus right now and start my YouTube channel. And that might not actually be what you need to do. I think foremost, it's not about being busy. It's about having focus on the longer term. And what I want for you guys is that when the gears of the industry start to move again, you are able to show up mentally and emotionally and financially stable, but mentally and emotionally whole. Mm-hmm. So you're able to jump back on the opportunities when they come. The worst thing would be for you to exhaust yourself mentally during this, exhaust your nervous system, deplete your adrenal glands, and be utterly exhausted when things start picking up again.
I love that. Thank you so much, Christine. And could you just spell out your website one more time? It went by just a little bit fast.
Oh,
If you
sorry.
spell out your name one more time, and this is for people. And the class is tomorrow, which is Thursday.
It's just a
Open
that you can download for free.
Oh,
and it's
wonderful.
a whole workshop of my best advice that I've been giving to my clients over these last couple of years. And
so
it's my name. So it's christineoller.com/cashflow.
Great.
And it'll be up tomorrow.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks.
We really appreciate it. Thank you. Would anyone else like to jump in? Yes, Mitra?
Thank you, by the way, Amelia and Christine. There were really good practical notes, and I'm going to look in both of them. One thing I wanted to add to what you have said is the very word resilience. If you look at the word resilience, it really translates into ability to bounce back. It really talks about elasticity. That's what the gist of the word is. And it's fascinating that this word became more fashionable after science discovered that there is a sense of elasticity to our mind, because until recently, and I'm talking about very recently, wisdom knew, but science had not proven that our mind, our brain, has elasticity attributes about it, meaning that it can, just like elastic, it can be shaped differently. You can shape an elastic, you can shape your mind. So we know our mind has elasticity about it. We know our body has elasticity and adaptability to it. What we haven't practiced, maybe not all of us, is that our emotional self, our awareness self, has that elasticity, that sense of resiliency about it. And I think we don't maybe need to always do that, but times like this, especially when it's such a huge collective experience, and I've called COVID-19 a collective pause and a collective invitation to lead our life differently. And it's important that we tap into that resiliency that is an inheritance that has been given to all of us. Does it mean that we have all benefited from it? No, it's like inheritance is something that is given to you, but you may or may not use it. It's like I have a beautiful car in the parking, but do I drive it? Do I benefit from it? Maybe yes, maybe not. My invitation to all of your members is that to please, first of all, be aware, because that's the first aspect of anything. Be aware that inheritance is available to you. That is a possibility. And also tap into it and see, and you may ask how, but mere curiosity about it. The fact that you say, I wonder, when you wonder, not worry, wonder, it's a different W. When you wonder, meaning when you get curious about something, your mind opens up to it and prepares for it. We have an amazing operation happening here. When I ask a question, my mind wants to go and find it. When I don't ask any questions, my thinking mind goes and finds what is wrong with anything in life. So default is what's wrong. That's why we immediately, without awareness, go into judgment, what Emilia was actually referring to. So when I have no awareness, I entered the room and my mind is answering what is wrong. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with life? And of course, it always finds answers. And anything and anybody that we put under microscope, we can find things that, there's room for improvement. So in short, what I'm asking you is to please know that resilience, ability to bounce back, ability to have elasticity in how you perform in life, how you experience life, is there for you. The question is, can you tap into it? And I'm hoping today's panel will give you some tools to do that, and I'll be happy to contribute at my end. I'm complete.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mitra. Joan?
I know you have a lot of other questions that you probably want to get to. everything that was said here was wonderful. When I think about all of this, I agree very much with Mitra about awareness. I mean, that's the hardest part, is developing just the awareness of what's going on and getting yourself to that. You know, I mean, our first reaction very often when we tend to move into the victim cycle and we have a lot of self-worry and stuff like that is to block out wanting to be aware. And so actually, when you feel at your worst is often the opportunity to begin to tell yourself, okay, I'm at my worst, you know, and that means I'm not letting myself be open and be aware. And I also want to follow up on Christine, her model. I have one that's very similar, the 3 stages. I adore it. I love it. I can't emphasize just how important that is. For me, a lot of my work and where the focus is developing the muscles, the brain pathways that Mitra was talking about in a different way, to transition. So when we're in a difficult place, that developing the muscle to become aware that we are, and it's not serving us, to develop the muscle to get past the resistance, you know, because let's face it, self-pity can feel really good, you know. And so, you know, to get out of that pity pot and then to move into being open to awareness, we're like asking questions, just wonderful tools. And then developing, again, the muscle to move from that awareness to a lot of wonderful tools, you know, that are out there. And also even developing the muscle, one tool of which is to ask yourself what Christine's 3-level process, you know, am I at, because that's going to require a different set of tools than if I'm in the middle part, you know, the short term, and then if I'm low enough that I can think in the long term. So for me, it's about the transition, you know, where we get stuck and being able to really develop the resilience, I guess, or maybe the flexibility. I want to say the flexibility, which then becomes resilience in itself. So that's all I'm going to add.
That's wonderful.
Okay,
And
can
you
I
know,
just add one
yes,
thing really quick, Lori, before we go into the
yeah.
next question, to something that Joan said that I find is just so important in all of this, is the part where Joan was talking about it's so easy for us to throw ourselves a pity party right now.
It's okay.
And I think, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think it's so important for us to understand what the evolutionary role of throwing ourselves a pity party actually is, because every emotion that we feel because somehow it evolved and was useful for thousands of years. And so what's the use of throwing oneself a pity party? Well, it would be useful thousands of years ago when every single person in our tribe had an essential role to play. And when you threw yourself a pity party, it was actually meant to be a signal to our community that, hey, this person's hurting, we need to pull them back in. So depression actually has an evolutionary role, but not the way that we actually see it play out today. Particularly in a world where we can hide. For thousands of years, there wasn't room to hide. If you were throwing yourself a pity party, if Lori was like, oh, I feel so terrible, and nobody loves me, and you know, if you got into a fight with someone, it's like, nobody loves me, I'm terrible. And it was my way of going, no, Lori, we love you, come back, we need you. And so there's something really interesting about this feeling, like, why does it feel good to throw ourselves a pity party? Why do we do this? Well, we do it because for thousands of years, it was actually helpful. It was a social cue to our community, and there wasn't anywhere to hide. But now we can hide. We're being told to hide. We're being told to quarantine and to socially distance. So it's really important, I think, that when I want to throw myself a pity party, that I remind myself that the reason my body wants to go to pity party is not actually going to happen by my throwing a pity party. It's me needing support. So I actually have to vocalize the support that I need and honor that, yes, it's okay. I could do the pity party for a little while and go there, and then ask myself, what do I really need in this? And for most of us, it's usually some element of social support.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Amelia. I really appreciate that. And, you know, it seems to me too that a lot of these tools actually will probably be really helpful to us as actors and performers after all of this is over with, because being able to recognize what's going on and also then reaching out and asking for help, because we're all going to have opportunities, let's say, you know, before this time of quarantine and after this time of quarantine, where we wanted something or something was going to happen and then it didn't happen. So we experienced loss. There are times when we don't get what we want as far as the roles that we're going out for. So what I hope is that by practicing some of these tools that we're learning today, that there might be a way when we come out of this, on the other side of this, talking about the long game, is that this might be a time to be able to practice, see what works for you, and then be able to bring it into your next steps after we're no longer in this current state that we're in. It's also very interesting that it is a collective at this point, that we all are experiencing the same thing. Actors are in and out of work all the time. Right now, that's such a huge swath of people that are all experiencing what an actor experiences in between jobs. And I was glad that you brought up, Amelia, that this is something, hey, we've done this a lot. As actors, we are resilient. This is not the first time, nor will it be the last, that we have to make transitions. Now going to the next topic that we had covered a little bit in planning the panel here, navigating the highs and lows of this era. How can performers stay calm during these times of global unease, avoiding becoming overwhelmed by rapidly changing news cycles and overload of information? How can we balance the pragmatic need to be informed with the need to take care of our mental health? And also, can we reframe the way these negative events are perceived? When much of our life feels uncontrollable, what tools can we use to approach our daily life with fortitude and positivity? Now, some of this, of course, we've touched on. Please feel free, panelists, to expand on ideas that maybe were previously mentioned in relation to this current topic that we're bringing up. Would someone like to start?
I'll start.
Joan?
Yeah. As I said when I introduced myself, this has actually not been an easy time for me as well. So there's been a lot of having to do self-management. And just to disclose, my brother had a stroke about 2.5 weeks ago, right in the midst of all this. And what I'm experiencing is that he can't get the care that he needs, because the health professionals in the hospital, they're just not available to him. And so the worry, I can tell you what not to do. So what not to do was what I did, which was, get on my high horse. Actually, my brother at one point yelling at me, he said, "Get off your throne," and say, "But you need to be doing this, and your wife needs to be doing this." And they were trying to do things. And I realized that was not useful. And so the worry's not useful. Now, before I could move into calming, the first thing is that I have learned, and I'm always working on this, to first be compassionate to myself. So I have to forgive myself. I have to be okay with the fact that that is my reaction. And, in being kind to myself, then I need to be able to, which begins to calm me down. Then I begin to ask, what really can I do at this time to contribute? Now, the critical judging voice in me says, "Oh, yeah, you should be doing this and you should be, But, when I thought about it, what my brother was really asking for in this conversation we had, it was just to be heard. He was frustrated. He's scared. He's worried. And so I listened. I just did a lot of listening. And one of the things I would recommend for calming us down is two things. One way to listen to ourselves, a lot of you already know this, is journaling. Amelia had talked about social support. If you can have a buddy, I mean, and it's not about just complaining. It's not about that. It's about letting yourself say what you need to say, and also letting your friends, your family, be able to hug you virtually. You know, even all it takes is just one person. One person, that's all you need, who you feel can hear you. And then, and most important, you learning to hear yourself and to give the love to yourself that is needed. So I had to do a lot of journaling. I also use tape recorders. That's a whole nother practice. And talking, listening back. And then moved into, I apologized to my brother. And I said, you're right. And I said, I'm getting off the throne. It's not a good, I'm not a good king anyway, I mean, my opinions don't count. Talk to me. And that's really helped to move things forward. So
Beautiful.
That's one thing that I would, and then just sharing that more from the heart. There's concrete tools that I can give as well, but I thought I would just share what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Our other panelists? Yes, Mitra?
Yes, thank you, Joan, for sharing. It's important to realize that we are in a stage 1 of loss and mourning. And many of us may have moved on, but there is a honoring and there is a acknowledging that needs to happen, that we have lost something, someone, some state of being, some privileges, some benefits. And without acknowledging and going too fast, it may prematurely take us to the next step. The 3 steps that I recommended to my students that I was teaching online at UCLA was the reactive survival mode state. That's the first state. In fact, if we do not have that experience of stage 1, meaning, oh my God, we will never recognize the danger and hence cannot protect ourselves. So it's important that we acknowledge that, honor that, and understand the value of that. We've been through that. Many of us have moved on, many of us have not, and that's fine. Doesn't matter where we are. The second step is the step of contemplation. And that is to really, I call it digestion, digest what has happened. It was just like an earthquake, and it's symbolic because last night we had an earthquake here in LA, that it was just like, whoa, it was just something that really shook us, and it was at a very high rate. And we have to go through there and then go to the next step and next stage. It's important to know that there is a next stage, because usually we put a period after that. It's been hard, it's been bad, I have lost, it's been really difficult, and it's period. It's not a period, it's a comma. It's a comma. It's been hard, it's been difficult, it's collective, comma, I can handle it. This I can handle it is, I mean, it's not just a great statement that you put on cards and put it on social media, even though it sounds good for many, but it's really an attitude in life. What I'm talking about is really the capacity building. So there is a mindfulness story that if I had an elephant in this living room that I'm sitting here, it would be very threatening. But if I was with this elephant in an open field, it would be very interesting. Same elephant, 2 completely different experiences. What is the difference? It's the field, it's the capacity in which I am experiencing the elephant. And now this elephant is COVID-19, and it's truly global. And we have to really take some time to understand the interconnectedness that brings for us, how grand that is, that we are all experiencing that at almost the same time, maybe at different levels, but at the same time. And that's the interconnectedness in the mindfulness world. They call it common humanity, that how common our humanity is. And you are right. We are now experiencing what many professions, including the entertainment industry, has been experiencing. Now everybody knows what you're talking about. Now everybody knows a lot of things that other people were talking about. And that's the beauty of our interconnectedness that this experience has brought us. So first step, reaction, survivor mode, shock, mourning, all these things, they all belong to the first step, which is extremely honorable, valid, healthy to experience. The second stage is contemplation, sitting back and really experience is here and I'm here. Whereas in stage one, I was one with experience. There was no space. Now we're creating space and we're looking at the experience and saying, that's interesting. I experienced it like this. This is what's happening. This is long-term. This is short-term. And all the beautiful tools that your other panelists are offering walks in to the step two, the contemplation, the evaluation, the really seeing and hearing what's going on, zooming in to see the individual experiences, zooming out to see the collective experience. That's the step two. And then there's a step three. That's why I said there's a comma, and it's a huge comma, that there's a third step where you actually, out of evaluation and honoring of what's going on for you and in you, you arrive at a wise decision. So the third step is realization and wise decision and action. And knowing that these steps and stages do exist allows you to really know that there is a comma and you can move forward. Because many of us get really stuck in the stage one because we have never experienced something similar to this before. And we think that's it, that's our story. So I did a storytelling, COVID-19 storytelling in my podcast, saying that we are truly, and it's so appropriate for your members, we are truly writing a COVID-19 story. Remember 9/11? Remember we remembered where we were? Remember we always asked, where were you? What happened? How did you feel? So that was at the more central and national level, because to be honest with you, when I traveled, people didn't experience it as much in Europe and in Asia, for instance, but we were really experiencing it in North America. But this is really at the global level. So there will be a time that you and I will be talking to grandchildren of the next generation or our grandchildren, and we'll be telling them how we went through this COVID-19 era. And my invitation to all of your members is that please write this story consciously, because you do have a choice. It doesn't need to be automatically written by your frightened, fearful mind that only knows one version of life, and that is danger, and that is bad, and that is every name that you had for it, victimhood. There is a victorhood at the end of this story. And it may not be about money, it may not be about fame, but it would be about the ultimate way that we want to feel. So we want what we want. We follow and chase things because ultimately we want to experience a certain state of being. We want to be happy. We want to be in a place that is comfortable for us. So if you can be happy, if you can be comfortable, if you can make it, really the other details become irrelevant, because you have arrived at the ultimate prize, which is happiness. Thank you. I'm complete.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mitra. So appreciate that.
I'll piggyback on that. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes on someone who speaks, I think, to the power of post-traumatic growth. And she says, if your life were a book and you were the author, how would you want the story to go? That's from Amy, oh my gosh, what's her last name? Amy Purdy. She's got a beautiful TED Talk describing her traumatic experience where she actually lost both of her legs, and she went on to being an amputee that became a Olympian snowboarder despite her amputation. And so much of what Mitra just said reminds me of that. If your life were a book and you were the author, how would you want your story to go? Would you want the story to go, COVID-19 happened and I crawled up into a hole and I gave up acting for the rest of my life and decided to never pursue my dreams? Or would you like to write your story as like COVID-19 happened and everything in the whole planet came to a screeching halt for a moment, and everybody exhaled together and everybody wept and everybody cried and everybody created a new normal, and then together we discovered how to put one foot back in front of the other and took it one step at a time, right? So I think that's just something that we all have to keep coming back to. And the wisdom, I think there's so much positive psychology in the wisdom of the serenity prayer that we all love and know so much, which is grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And research in psychology talks about the fact that there's 3 areas that impact our life satisfaction, or we call our happiness level or our well-being. And those are our life circumstances, our genetic set point, and our intentional activities. Meaning how happy I am in this moment is influenced by those 3 factors. So the things that happen to us, our life circumstances could be, how many gigs do you have booked? What's your education level? Are you single or married? COVID-19, having a boss you hate, having a director you love, all of these things are circumstances. Our biological set point is the fact that we as human beings do come in with a natural predisposition, a genetic predisposition towards how our body handles stress. Some people's nervous systems will be a little bit more sensitive. Some people's bodies may be impacted in how they absorb serotonin. So it's important just to know that some people might struggle with this a bit more. Some people might be hardier. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors and a mother who is a high-level worrier, and I've had to learn how to calm my own worry mind because I thought my mom had a PhD in worrying, and it was also research shows that I actually have inherited those genes because genes of Holocaust survivors are actually a little bit more threat detective than those who are not. The threat response is actually higher. So it's important to know that there is an element of this that we really need to take care of our body and know that that is a factor, but it's not the only factor. And then there's this other side, which is the intentional activities, the things that we actually do have control over. Our genes, we don't necessarily have control over them. We can impact the expression of those genes, and there's a field of epigenetics that talks about how when we change our environment, we can actually shift which genes get turned on and turned off, but the blueprint we've inherited. The intentional activities, though, is what we think, how we feel, and what we do. And those are the things that we actually have control over, how we think, how we feel, and what we do. So when we're talking about feeling so helpless right now, there's so many things that we cannot change. We can't, we can't open everything up and turn the economy back up just like a light switch. Nor if you're someone who's really struggling with this, or maybe struggled with your mood, or struggled to keep going even before all this, that's still present. But the thing that you can change is the things that all the other panelists are referring to. When you change your thoughts, you're changing your perspective on how you're seeing this. You're trying on a different perspective. You're putting a comma instead of a period, which I loved, Mitra. You're focusing on what are you doing? So Joan mentioned sitting down and journaling, right? What are the action steps that we're taking? We all know the importance of self-care strategies, but talk about a disease that impacts our immune system and takes over our lungs, that gets us going, wow, I should make sure I'm eating well and exercising and sleeping and doing these things for my self-care, just in case if I do happen to get COVID. I was really blessed. My COVID-19 symptoms were, I had symptoms for about 2 days, and then I lost my sense of smell for 14 days. But for the most part, everyone's like, Amelia, like, how did you like barely get affected by it? And I said it was 2 things. I take really good care of myself leading up to this, and I practice and teach self-care, that I know how to support my body and how to make my immune system super high. So it's not that I was like, come on at me, COVID, I can take you. But I did have that. I had a strong sense of, I know breathing exercises that I practice to keep my lungs healthy. I know what to do to take care of myself. And if you don't know what to do to take care of yourself, what a phenomenal time to learn. And that, again, takes that thread and turns it into an opportunity, the importance of self-care. So I just want to highlight that when we're talking about the things that we can change and the things that we can't, research shows that the 3 things we can change are actually incredibly powerful. On an average day, when you compare people's happiness level, your intentional activities account for about 40% of your life satisfaction and your happiness. That the impact of our life experiences, or the things that are just happening, typically only account for about 10% of our happiness level when you look at the differences between people. And obviously right now, when it's something that takes away so much of our autonomy, it can be higher. But it's still important to know that we have a huge amount of control over our well-being and our happiness, and it has to do with those behaviors. And Joan, I just want to send my love to your brother and hope that for speedy recovery. I too had to face, I think the hardest part of this was, as my father was dying, I couldn't get him on hospice. I couldn't get any morphine. I couldn't get a thermometer. I couldn't get all of these things. And you realize wow, this is crazy times we live in. And so, but again, if it wasn't for the fact that I knew I can control my thoughts, I can control my feelings, and I can focus on my actions. Sitting here just talking, getting angry at the system or how burdened things are, wasn't going to help. It wasn't going to change the situation. And when I was able to focus my mind on problem solving, it enabled me to actually make some decisions that were really helpful. Like my father, I knew he didn't want to die in a hospital. I knew he wanted to be home. I was really blessed that I was able to find it. I was able to tap resourcefulness and find a doctor that was willing to come to the house. And when he did pass, I was able to, because I was in a place of calm and center, I was able to say, I don't need to call 911 in order for them to declare the body dead. I can actually call the doctor, and the doctor came, because I was like, we already have an overburdened medical system, and the first responders don't need more exposure than they've already getting. Like, I don't, why double the exposure? And it was just the fact that I was able to use these resources and just start saying, what can I affect? What can I not? But just being angry or being victimized by what's happening isn't going to help the situation. And leveraging the things that we can change has been really important for me.
Oh, that's really, these personal stories that you're sharing, Amelia and Joan, about people that you're working, people that you're losing, living and losing, and also for you, Mitra, taking care of your mother there. This is probably many things, examples of how other people, what they're dealing with as well. Because right now, I'm sure there are many people who are watching this who have had similar experiences. And I am so grateful for you sharing from the heart like this, because you're talking about how you walked through this, because we don't know at what phase somebody else is at in this time of quarantine, and with their loved ones and with themselves. Mm-hmm. Christine, I wanted you to be able to answer to this too, but
no, we can go on to the questions.
Is that all right? And then we'll bring you up for the questions, because I want, Danny, I want the membership. I want our wonderful actors to be able to ask questions. So Danny, if you want to open up the chat, and I can start looking at that. But Christine, if you would like to address this, that would be really great. So if you have a question, as soon as Danny opens up the question box here.
Yeah, I agree with Joan and Mitra and Amelia. That's really salient advice. And the thing about journaling, because I know some of this language you're hearing, self-care, journal. It's like, but I'm feeling like this. The thing about journaling, or just think of it as getting your thoughts down on paper. Because when you can put your thoughts that are swirling around in your head and get them down on paper, first of all, there's an energetic detachment that can happen. And you can start to really look at them. Oh, look at all the things I'm thinking right now. It's very akin to the morning pages of The Artist Way, where it's just like, get it out so it doesn't swim in there all day. And then an exercise you can do when you have these thoughts and these worries and concerns on the paper, because what we are sort of encouraged to do is just turn them into positivity, just, and we ping pong between like, oh my God, the world is ending, to carpe diem, but there's a neutrality. Try to get your thoughts back to just a neutral thing, not so extreme on the, oh my God, life is unfair, to the extreme positive of life is fair. It's like, well, life is life. There's a more neutral thought, and this is my life. This is my life. And it goes back to Mitra and talking about the judgment and labeling good and bad and good and bad. That keeps you ping-ponging in the extreme. But when you can sort of get your thoughts on paper and start to examine them and start to write a more neutral version of the story, that can be a very helpful exercise when you wake up in the morning and you're just like, I can't do another day.
Wonderful. Thank you. And, that's something that we can do today, right now. What I love are so many of these tools that you're mentioning, all of our wonderful panelists, are things that we can do right now, today, is to really look at what we're experiencing. And I love also how awareness is coming up so much, like when we know what we're experiencing, that we know that this is a phase, that this is going to end, this is not going to be forever. Wow. I mean, it just sort of takes us out of that immediate, it's overwhelming, So I'm going to start here with some of the questions that we have. Thank you, everybody, for putting these in. And I'll start here. Kyla, thank you. She says, sending so much gratitude to all the panelists and light to all my fellow artists out there. Stay resilient. Absolutely. This is Alexandra, says, I'm able to write, act, create, and I feel everything I create sucks. Suggestions welcome. How about go with that? Joan, you ready to take that?
Yes. Well, I'm really glad, because I'm hoping in the time we have left that we're going to just be giving the four of us just practical tools. I think that's really important, as practical as possible. So, and I love, once again, what Christine had to say. So, and there's a lot of ways to go about with the, you're going to need to find the route that works for you.
Right.
So I don't want to give the person's name, but I love what she said. I'm able to write, act, and create, right? Just everything I feel I create sucks. Suggestions welcome. Okay, so the place to begin is that I'm going to introduce a tool that I have found really helpful. It's core to my practice, and it's a lifetime tool that I teach to everybody in entertainment and also in the business world. The first step is to get clarity about the negativity. So as Christine said, you can't just jump to positivity. You also can't just get stuck in negativity. But
Right.
The thing is that I want to respond directly to this woman who wrote this, because it helps me to tailor it. So when she says everything I create sucks, right? And right now, a lot of people feel that way. It's like, I suck, my acting sucks, whatever. You pick up the pen and paper. Again, you can also do it verbally on a tape recorder, but pen and paper, and it's called a dump sheet, a little different from journaling. And you're just going to write down, you're going to just do stream of consciousness, like all your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, concerns, worries, emotions, swear words, I want you to get really into, this, there's a person in you that says everything sucks. Okay, and it's a really critical person. There's various roles that we have in ourselves. So simply you're a mother or a father, you're an actor, you're a grandpa, you're a student, so we all know roles. So I want you to get into the everything sucks role. Once you get it out and you exhaust yourself, okay, then you're going to probably find just by getting it out as in journaling, remember it's a dump, okay, you're probably going to find yourself calming down automatically or getting clarity that there is a particular voice that just, it's self-hate. It just says you suck, you know, no matter what. And it's not a voice that you want to listen to. So the first step, though, is you do have to have the awareness of the negativity. The second step then is, it's called thought stopping. And this has been around forever. But this is where I talked earlier about getting us to transition right out of that. So the biggest thing for most people is to be aware that there is this part, you buy into it, you believe it, that says you suck. And I want you instead at that moment, do not go back, do not rewrite it, do not look at it. Breathe. Now breathe. I actually brought a breathing canister with me today. I was going to show you. The thing is that if you can get yourself to a place, you can just either say, I'm breathing, okay? I'm focus on something else. Amelia talked about touch. Touch is a big one. It might be to redirect your focus. I have something, I wear a ring that was my mother's. It means a lot to me. So if I can redirect to that warm memory, to my ring, do you see? Ideally, what I tell people is the best way to get yourself out is to take 3 deep breaths. You all have had breathing classes as part of your acting. Make sure it goes all the way out, and then stomp your feet. And if you have children, by the way, this is great to teach your kids too. So deep breaths 3 times, stomp your feet. And the higher you lift your knees up, I'd stand up and demonstrate, but I think you get the idea. You know, what it does is, and then stop and breathe again. And it helps you to get to the center, to present focus. You cannot do anything when we're in worry, negativity, pain, even positivity. We might not be in the present. We could be in the past over what has happened. We can be in the future over what we fear or we hope, but you want to be in the present. So then, and this, the last part, requires pre-homework. And that is you need to find 3 positive experiences. And this is where Amelia's positive psychology, true to form, comes in. 3 truly positive events. They don't have to be related to acting. They don't have to be related to your writing. But you need to recall. Honestly, what I do, because I'm like Amelia, I was genetically wired for a lot of, you know, crappy stuff. So I found that I had to really, over time, I had to keep an ongoing list of positive experiences that really happened to me, positive intentional things I've done, positive miracles that have happened to me. Some are really tiny, some are huge. I mean, you know, a lifelong one that just comes back over and over was my mother discovered I had talent, sent me to Interlochen, which is a music arts and academy. It changed my life, by the way, just utterly changed me. So even though I'm a shrink, that's why I love entertainment. I love all of you. And that comes back over and over. And all you need is one. And trust yourself. In a calmer present state, just say, okay, what's positive? What comes back? And when a positive memory comes up, take the finger of your dominant hand, touch the back of your other hand, hold it there, and bring in all your senses. See it, recall it, verbalize it, feel the emotions that go with it, and make sure it is positive. If you slip into any negativity, take your finger away. Put it back. And you'll need to keep it for 10 or 20 seconds. It's called, I've added to it, but it's called cognitive restructuring. You can Google it. And also something taken from neuro-linguistic programming, which deals with our sensory system. Anchoring. But if you practice this, just practice it. Practice each step, especially the second, thought stopping, and the third. And the more that you want to have those positive memories, because eventually, as Mitra has said, the brain is flexible. At any age, we do build new pathways. So one day it will click, and then you'll just do it automatically. And if you keep anchoring it, guess what? Whenever you're nervous on an audition, anything, you're going to touch this. Nobody will know what you're doing. And guess what's going to flood back?
Your positive memories. Yes, that's
positive,
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joan. I want to also say that Chrissy had asked, she said, thank you. And can we replay this video? Will there be a link? Yes, there will be. So one of the things that's so great about today is that you can go back once they have it up on the SAG-AFTRA YouTube, SAG-AFTRA Foundation YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch this. So thank you again, all of our panelists too, for all of these wonderful gems. I want to also say thank you everyone for all these beautiful comments. We're getting so many nice things that people are saying about how much they appreciate this. We have a lot of questions, so let's just have maybe one panelist take answer on this. I know we could, there's so many things to talk about here. Question from Alexandra: how do you recommend coping with children homeschooling alongside this? Someone want to take that?
There.
Well, I'm going to stop.
Okay, Mitra, do you want to take that?
Sure. I think it's very important that we tap into ourselves and our grounded self before we have any recipes of what to do with children. The problem with working with children is that at times children are taking care of children. And I'm saying this with all compassion and due respect, that when I am in my reactive mode, I am also a child. I need to be in my responsive mode, meaning response ability, able to respond instead of react, in order to work with children. And one of the ways that is helpful for me to do that is to truly take care of myself. And I'm quite aware of, I was a single mother with 2 kids working 3 jobs. So I'm aware of the time restrictions, but I'm also offering that you make sure that the person who is responding and is an adult, a parent responding. Because most of the time when I work with families and parents, I see that sometimes actually children are far more grounded than the parents. So the first question is, who is, meaning which aspects of me, as Joanne was saying, there's so many different aspects of me. I always say, imagine that there's a long table and all aspects of you are sitting around that table. There is one person that is at the head of the table and is the decision maker. By default, that is our frightened mind, our thinking mind. With awareness, it could be the aware me. So the aware me is sitting at the head of the table and sees the child is asking or acting out or whatever is going on or is needing something. The question is, which one of these characters would I like to hire and charge with responding to that child? And I think that's a very important element of awareness, that knowing that you have a choice and knowing that you can choose. So I hire the aware me, the adult me, because there is a need for adults to be in the room. And then I get my adult to work with a child. And usually the questions that are very useful to work with children, first is, tell me what's going on. Tell me your story. We all want to be heard. As Emilio said, we are all unheard and we want to be heard. So asking, what is your story, hearing them. I have listened to people, I call it from boardrooms to bedrooms to courtrooms. I was a human rights commissioner for a few years. So I've listened to people, and if I was to identify one common problem in 35 years of working on 4 continents, is that we are all unheard. We are unheard at home, we are unheard in our bedrooms, and we are unheard in our boardrooms and workplaces. So hear your child out. Let them say what they want to say. The second question to the child, if they're in a difficult situation, is, how are you feeling? That connection and identification and naming of feeling immediately settles down the feeling. When I tell you what I'm feeling, and that's why conversation and communication and connection is so important. So how are you feeling? What happened? Tell me your story. 2, how are you feeling? What are you feeling? Tell me about your feelings. And ask the child, what are they going to do about it? Whatever it is that they're complaining about. I'm bored. Probably that's the most common thing that we hear these days, because, you know, they are bored. There's not those activities that were there. They're not there anymore. Ask them, what are you going to do about it? In the beginning, the child said, I don't know. And that's fine. But as I said, mind is an amazing thing. You pose a question to it, it's walking around looking for an answer. So what is important, as my teacher always told me, he said, there is no shortage of answers. The problem is most of the time we are asking the wrong question. So ask the right question of your child. How are you feeling? What happened? What are you going to do about it? Is a beautiful step to them connecting with themselves and learning what to do with their own emotions that at times are out of control. And the 4th question that is very beautifully supportive is, what can I do about it? By the way, I posed these 4 steps as working with children, but really is working with anybody that is feeling out of control or is feeling uncomfortable, which these days are a lot. What happened? How do you feel? What are your plans? What are you going to do about it? How can I help? What is my support that I can offer you? If you follow these 4 steps, very simple, extremely deep and practical, it would be very useful to work with anybody, including children, who might feel or look that they are out of control or cannot be so-called tamed. We don't need to be tamed. We need to be heard. That's what's missing.
I love it. Thank you. I have a question here to Amelia. Can you show us one of your breathing exercises to practice taking care of our lungs?
Yeah, I wrote back in the chat box too. There's so many breathing exercises, and what I will just actually recommend as a resource. So there's the yogis have dozens of different breath practices to either calm the body or excite the body. And there's a great app out there and a great practitioner named Wim Hof, who does a rapid breathing exercise. It's called the Wim Hof method, and it's actually been researched in a laboratory. And so I just recommend, I put it in the chat box, I recommend that. It's a great one for building oxygen capacity in the lungs.
Oh, that's really wonderful. We had another question about anxiety at the grocery store. Does anyone want to handle that? We have about 10 minutes left or so. So would someone like to take that one up? Anxiety at going to the grocery store?
Yeah, can you just give a little more context about, you know, is it what is it about it? How to go to the grocery store without having a panic attack? Or
let's see. It was just about going. I'm not finding this exactly right now. So
I would say all the same tools that we've been giving you all. I mean, the biggest thing is it's not the going to the grocery store, it's what the mind is making out of it. It's the mind going, and then this is going to happen. What if this happens? What if that happens? And it makes a bigger production out of it than it needs to be. Think of it as you're going on set. You're an actor. You're an actor that needs to go in with a mask and gloves on and get yourself covered. The mind can make a mountain out of a molehill or a molehill out of a mountain. And so I've been finding it as you know, the first time I went to the store, it was like I hadn't seen people in weeks. It was like, humans, it's amazing. I think it's just at the end of the day, you can't let fear run you. And so at some point you mask up, you glove up, and you do the best you can. And you just say to yourself, I will handle it. And the same way, all the cognitive reframing tools that Joan talked about, it's so important. If you can't control your thoughts impact your feelings impact your actions. So talking to yourself about how you see this is so important.
Thank you. The exact question was, I have a lot of anxiety when I go to go grocery shopping because of COVID-19. And so thank you for the suggestions. That's really helpful. Someone was talking about bitterness. Anyone want to quickly, I mean, we could talk about all this, but talking about the bitterness for what's been lost. Does anyone want to tackle that? Mitra?
Yes. I think this goes back to what I was talking about, the first stage of mourning a loss. And bitterness is a very honored and respected emotion. The question is, what can I do about it? How can I move forward? Because moving forward is what will remedy this. When we are in a bitter state, we're really drowning in our emotions. Again, it's a great place to visit, very unhealthy place to take residence. So my suggestion to you is, if you are feeling it, please use a tool that is very, very helpful in the mindfulness world. It's called RAIN, which is R stands for recognizing and naming your emotion. Call it bitterness, call it anger, call it frustration. And A is really accept that this emotion and this condition exists. By acceptance, for attorneys out there, this is not same legal acceptance as agreement. Acceptance means really acknowledging the fact. It is what it is. Today is Wednesday and it is the time it is. Do I like it? Do I agree with it? Do I welcome it? That's beside the point. The fact is it is. So accepting in that sense. And the I in RAIN stands for investigation of that emotion in your body, because whatever emotion you are experiencing, there is a translation of it in the body. So and children show it very well. When they're afraid, they talk like this. But when we become grown-ups, we learn to sort of compose ourselves and hide our emotions. Find the emotion in your body. Where can you feel that emotion? And it could be in your heart, it could be in your shoulders. Usually it's on the face. We always are tense around our faces. And find emotion in your face or on your body, and relax and breathe through that. And really allow it to get to a more comfortable place, because when we translate an emotion, which is an energy, into physicality in our body, then we can do something about it. I can relax my hands, I can drop my shoulders, I can soften my face. So that's the I in RAIN. And the N in RAIN is the most important part of it, that not identify with this emotion. We have a wrong language for it. I say I am angry, so I believe that that's who I am. It is my identity. Whereas really the correct way of experiencing it and expressing it is that I'm experiencing anger right at that moment. I'm Mitra, but I happen to be experiencing this emotion. So that would be the space that I said you create between yourself and your emotion, as opposed to becoming one with it, which doesn't allow you to have any room to work with it. So RAIN, recognize. A, accept. I, investigate in your body. And not identify with it. This is a great tool for working with charged, challenging emotions in the mindfulness world. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Someone has, I'm going to use this as the last question, and then I want to make sure that each one of you panelists let us know how, if anyone wants to find out more about what you're doing, the website that they can go to. And thank you again for all the free resources that you've told us about already, and all of these amazing tools. So, because I think this will also apply to many people, is sleep. Having difficulty sleeping right now. So it's a quick answer though, if someone would like to go ahead and take that. Joan?
Yeah, that's I get that a lot in my practice. And so the thing about sleep is, well, I'm going to put my clinical hat on for a moment here, and so the others might not agree or agree. If the sleep is chronic, I mean the lack of sleep, and you're really having a hard time, that means the anxiety and or depression, you can have both back and forth, is so strong that you might want to consult with a physician or a mental health professional for further treatment, and possibly even, right now what's going on is what we call a lot of situational depression and anxiety. So it's triggering a lot of your genetic components, but it's heightened because of the situation. So you might want to get a sleeping aid just to help you through this. And especially if you haven't had so many problems before, or even if you have. In terms of actual other things to do, I've thought about this a lot. Sometimes I wake up with anxiety. The thing is that if you wake up and it's nightmares, and I have a long history working with dreams, and just anxious, which means similar to a nightmare, first thing you've got to tell yourself is, do not believe anything in it. Do not believe anything in it unless it's something really positive. Because right now, it's just an expression of anxiety and depression that you're experiencing. Again, deep breaths. I would suggest getting out of the bed. Various people have tea, milk. You know coping mechanisms. Personally, I, like Mitra, have a teacher, and she's written many books. Sometimes I'll go and I'll listen a little bit to her podcast, or I'll get a book and do the old, you know how it is, you let it just kind of flip open to any page and you point your finger down. It's amazing how it always has something to help that's healing to me. And you try different things. If necessary, you take a bath. But you know, if the anxiety, if you can't release it right then, get out of the bed and try different things. Art, healing, you know, using colors, looking at colors that are healing to you, soft colors. Listening to music, classical music, Enya, that's healing to me. So
Joan, thank you so much. We have 5 minutes left and we have a hard out. I so appreciate all of your suggestions. I'm so sorry to cut you off on that. Those are all beautiful things, and I hope it will be helpful to the person that wrote the question and anyone else who's experiencing a difficulty with sleeping. Again, what I'd love to be able to do is just very quickly, Joan, would you please start where we can find you? Again, we only have 5 minutes left. So if you could just give us your website. Also, for the members, go back to the invitation that you got and you'll have the correct spelling for everyone's name. Also, if you're watching this video after all of this has happened, then you'll be able to also see on the bottom on the YouTube page. Joan, if you could tell us where to find you.
Yes, I am doing a series of 3 free webinars. The first one starts tomorrow at 10 a.m. California time for 1 hour each. The focus is on managing emotions in difficult times.
Your website?
My website is either Joan Pastor PhD. Put in Joan Pastor PhD. If you don't put in the PhD, some sexy stripper in Brazil comes up. So you can go that for LinkedIn, for Psychology Today, or joanpastorphd.com for my website.
Thank you. Christine, where can we find you? Christine, where can we find you?
At my website, christineoller.com. That's the best, that's the portal to me.
Great. Mitra?
Innermap.me, INNERMAP, one word, .me, or my name, Mitra Manesh. I don't have any other double, that's me.
All right, and Amelia?
Yeah, theflourishingcenter.com, and I actually am running a daily support group. That's a 30-day program, and it's available at theflourishingcenter.com/better. So if you feel like you're needing daily support, I'm doing a 1 hour class every day. That's either $30 for 30 days or completely free if you just write to me and say, I'd like a scholarship.
Wonderful. I want to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your rich and beautiful information that you gave us. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in today. It means so much that you're here. I want to thank the SAG Foundation, SAG-AFTRA Foundation, for all the work that they do, and Remy for putting this together, and Danny for being our wonderful tech advisor during this whole thing. Everyone, please stay safe. Please stay healthy. And I can't wait to see you on the other side of all of this. Thank you.
Thank you for being a great host.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
panel director, Lori.
Yes,
Thank
Lori.
you,
Lori.
You've been
You're
wonderful.
welcome.
Thank
Lori.
you, Lori.
Oops, Lori.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks, everyone.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.